So, last week we did a chicken fricassee, which is a white ragout. Fricassee is a synonym of the white ragout. This week, total opposite, we're going to do the brown ragout. We're going to revisit the Boeuf bourguignon, and this is called the estouffade bourguignon. When you hear estouffade, it means it is a brown ragout, but we're going to make it the easy way, straightforward, again, in a one-pot version that may again surprise you. Let's go. All right, time to make a Boeuf bourguignon one-pot style. Now, the one question I'm getting all the time when I go to a friend's house, it is this. Do we serve the carrot with a Boeuf bourguignon? Tricky question. In fact, when you make it by the book, you use an aromatic garnish with some celery, carrot and onion to cook the meat, but you then discard it and you don't serve the carrot with the Boeuf bourguignon. The garnish that is served with the Boeuf bourguignon is typically sauté mushroom, caramelized onion and sauté bacon. But we're not at school, we're not in a restaurant, so today we're gonna leave the carrots in because it's one pot and no big deal. Now, another interesting thing you may want to know is that back in the days, the Boeuf bourguignon was not cooked with this, which is red wine. It was cooked only using Madeira wine and cognac. Imagine this, because this, the red wine in the days, that was for peasants. The guy is drinking white wine, like it's ridiculous. But of course, today's modern times and having a red wine is pretty good. So get ready to do the mise en place and we're starting the recipe. Okay. So the mise en place, what do we need? Very simple. The onions, we're using pearl onions, mini onions like this. You try to peel them nicely and you leave them whole. That's the first thing, okay? Just peel them and wash them. Mushrooms, what are we gonna do with these? We're gonna take a knife and you can quarter them like that. That's all it needs to be done, okay? Next, garlic. We're gonna use some garlic. What do? Boom, crush it and you're done. Now, did I tell you about the bouquet garni? What is a bouquet garni? A lot of people are asking me. So you got this, which was a piece of a leek leaf. You get this, some thyme, this is normal thyme. You got this, which is some parsley branches. You can fold it together like that. And if you want, you can add even this, a piece of celery. On top of that, you're gonna put a bay leaf. And all what you do with that bouquet garni is that you're gonna roll this like that. And then take a string like this and then, mix everything together, attach it, and you're done. And basically, that's it. For the carrots, we're gonna just peel them. I like to use the small one because you can leave them whole. If you don't like that, you know what? You can cut them in half. It's up to you. But that's about it. And now, the meats. So of course you need to get something that is suited for slow cooking. This is chuck steak. You see all these little pieces, there's some fat, you got some lean part, and all what you need to do is to kind of detail this in little chunks like that. You can do smaller if you want, you can just cut this in half, but it will shrink during cooking. Okay, so you're gonna take your piece of meat and you're gonna cut it. The other option is this, that I absolutely love. These are the short ribs, beef short ribs. I asked the butcher to cut them in half and they're super compact and easy and they diffuse lots of flavor. I also like to keep the rind for my bacon here and I'm gonna throw this in the dish to give some more taste. Okay, so that's for the beef, we got the bacon. And this is the other bacon. Now this is bathing in liquid. And this is my little trick. I'm pouring Madeira wine into the bacon here and leave it to marinate for half an hour or something. And we're gonna pour that juice into the preparation. It's gonna further enhance the flavors and you're gonna have this, taste from the old days. So, all done. So, this is my meat, and the thing not to forget, of course, before anything, you don't season in your dish, otherwise all this excess salt is gonna ruin your dish, but a good amount of salt and pepper on there. And I like to put a good seasoning to start with. I guess there's a minimum of adjustment to do at the end. Right, so let's make this special Boeuf bourguignon one-pot style. Cast iron pot, again, I'm using a larger one. And the first thing we're gonna do is to add you can put like about a tablespoon of oil, sunflower or grapeseed oil. And contrary to the last time where we didn't color anything, this is gonna be totally the opposite. High heat, and we're gonna be searing the meat properly on all sides in batches. Right, so the color is this kind of brown here that we have, this, and the same goes for the short ribs. Use them on all sides, boom, sear, sear, sear. Last bit of meat is nice and brown. I'm gonna reserve this, and immediately using this, we're gonna start to sear all the other garnish because we're making a one pot. Best to do bit by bit. I'm gonna start with the mushrooms. I'm gonna add, you can add butter, but I think some oil is fine. Now, if you want, which is what I'm gonna do, you can also throw in your onions in there. We're not gonna kind of caramelize them, but just try to give a bit of color and mix the whole thing together when it's cooking. And if you need a little bit more fat, as I said, you can add a bit of more oil if you like. Okay, so that's as far as it should go. No need to overdo it. Now I'm gonna scoop this out and immediately start the bacon. Bacon goes in. And you know it was bathing into the Madeira wine. So it's a bit humid, and it's good because the pan here starts to be a little bit dryish. But the fat in the bacon is not super fatty bacon I've got today. They only had the loin one. It's not my favorite. I prefer the streaky one, but hey, just gonna try to color it a little bit. Perfect, same thing here. I'm gonna scoop this out and then the meat goes back in. So now our meat is back, and there's a crucial step or two. First, something that Paul Bocuse likes to do always, any brown stews, a little bit of tomato paste like this to enhance the color is a good thing, okay? Kind of mix it around, and it's gonna help for the coloring. The second thing I'm gonna do here is to claim back all of these juices at the bottom by using the Madeira wine I had. Okay? And I'm gonna wait for this to be almost dry, and that's gonna dilute with the tomato in there. It's gonna be lovely. Finally, before we put the garnish back in, we're gonna add this thing here. This is toasted flour. It's a flour that I've cooked in a dry pan to give that chestnut color. And it's gonna give nutty aroma to the dish, and of course thicken the sauce. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna carefully kind of mix the whole thing with the juice in the flour. You get the gist, so perfect. And now we can add our garnish. And same thing here, because it's a one pot, you need to have enough space. You're trying to raise everything and make sure the onions and everything is kind of nicely dispersed. Don't overdo it, but you know, if you can bury the onions under a little bit, it's fine. And now we're gonna pour the wine. Now here comes the interesting part, because we're not gonna be using a stock, because that's a way of doing the dish here. So I'm gonna put a bit of wine, about a bottle, and top up with a bit of water. Okay, and here you can afford having enough water to just about cover the meat. So I'm gonna check and you adjust to make sure there's enough. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more. Now, if you want less wine, it's fine, but don't think that it's too much wine. Because honestly, if you don't have that red wine taste in the Boeuf bourguignon, it's not a Boeuf bourguignon. That's nice, look at this. So now, we're gonna bring this to a light boil, and I'm gonna put this one, which is the skin or the rind, how do you call this? The rind from the bacon. Okay, I'm gonna put my bouquet garni, try to bury it somewhere deep in there. And of course, don't forget the garlic, very important. Again, Paul Bocuse always said, anything with red wine needs to have garlic into it. And I've tested that theory, I did it without garlic, and it's virtually, honestly, it's not the same. It's not the same. Got a few carrots. And something. I maybe should have cut them in half. What do you think? I'll see how I go. Anyway, we'll bring this to a light boil. All right, the reason we're bringing this to a light boil is this. You see all these impurities floating on there? This, aka is called the scum as well. You scoop it out when you want to work properly, and you clean as much as you can the top of there. Now, if you remove a bit too much liquid, just before cooking this, you're simply going to add a little bit of water, okay? So I'll do a bit of cleaning and I'll show you what's the next step. I'm done, so as you can see there's always little bit of it that will gum on the surface. It's not a big problem. If you want you can remove more. And now it's ready. I've turned my heat off and we're going to preheat our oven at 160 degrees Celsius. Put the equivalent Fahrenheit on the screen and I'm going to put a lid on, transfer this to the oven and let it slow cook in the oven for 2.5 to 3 hours until the meat really falls apart or can be detached easily with a fork. And that's about it. So I'm going to do this and we'll share the result together. Let's go. All right, after 3 hours of cooking, it is ready. I let it cool down a little bit so I can touch it and open it. But let's reveal what do you get. And for the simple white point version, with just wine and water. This is the result when you don't touch it. Now, the first test you have to do, of course, is to look at the meat. And you see 3 hours, it really falls apart. So you can see everything is just falling apart, falling off the bone on here, everything detaches. It's great. It's cooked. The sauce, I think this being an old recipe from the old days, the amount of flour is maybe a little bit overkill. I think back in the days they really loved flours and everything was like super thick. So I think I will adjust the amount of flour slightly so you have something just, that's perfectly, a little bit thick, but not too much. But away from that, honestly, it's not bad. What's left to do is just to dig in. So this is what I've been plating. Just a sample, some carrots, some things. And remember, this is the one pot. All what I did was throw everything in there. And, so let's see how it compares. You see how the meat falls apart? I mean, look at that. It's really... It is definitely perfectly cooked. I think I can do some a bit more sauce in there. Look at that, just got some sauce, because if you have a bourguignon, you don't have enough sauce, it's not right. You want actually plenty, or I can put a little bit more, and I'm starving. No, that's it. All right, so let's have a final word. The meat is perfectly cooked. The sauce, that's what I want to check. How tasty is it? It's quite fatty. You need to remove the fat if you have chuck beef. I can feel the wine, but it's kind of dissolved actually. The onions, the seasoning is all right. I think I should have put a little bit more salt while I was cooking it, but away from that, it's not bad for one pot. So to finish, how this one pot bourguignon compares to the classic method with all the steps, the marinade, etc., etc. To be honest, you're not far off from the real thing. I have to say that without the stock, the beefy flavor are there, it's subtle, you have the wine, but it's not as intense as what you will get when you use stock. But to be honest, with the minimum amount of effort you have to make this is highly recommended and it's brilliant. And that's it, we're all done. So next week we're gonna do something totally different and a dish that does not involve mushroom, because some of you have been saying that it's true, French cooking has got mushroom all the time. So we are gonna be making a one-pot dish from Alsace called the bake loaf, which is also one of the subscriber requests. So one of you said, I hope we're gonna see this, and guess what? We are. So tuning again next week for something totally different, and this time no mushroom. See you then.